G'day, my name's Chris. This is Flat Tank Journey. I'm back working on the BSA. In fact, I've been working on my wedge tank now for several weeks, but you just haven't seen it because watching paint dry is a bit boring. So I've got the front guard and the rear guard. Put my pliers out of the road. The front guard and the rear guard are in primer and bog and primer putty and spot filler, not necessarily in that order, but they're as good as I'm able to get them. The front guard had little roll marks in it. If you remember, it was new, well, new reproduction, so to speak. And the rear guard, well, it was pretty tired. It had a lot of marks in it, and it still has a few that I just can't face sanding and puttying anymore. I think it's a good, honest guard, and I think it's going to paint up okay. So today's painting day, unless something goes wrong and I see a little mark like that, and then I'm going to be in trouble, aren't I? I've got a piece of 320 in my hand. These, between coats of primer, I've been 180, 240ing them. So 320 is my next stage. I like to have them pretty smooth when I paint. I don't like a rough surface underneath. So I'm going to give these a very light going with 320. And all I'm really looking to do is just flatten off the surface. I'm not looking to change the world. 320 is not a paper to take a lot out. It's just taking the surface off and leaving me with a smooth finish. So I'm going to get into that. I'm not going to make you watch me sand. That's a bit dry. Well, wet, but you know what I mean. Bit ordinary. And then I've got some black enamel. Weirdly, black enamel, gloss enamel was hard to buy in an automotive paint in my town. What's going on? Why is that so hard? I had to go to 2 shops to get it. And then I had to buy it in this weird giant can. But maybe that suits me anyway. I'll get on and I will sand these up and then we'll talk a bit more. There's the front guard done. Not too bad. Couple of small marks here and there. Had to sand a bit heavier here. It's a tiny, tiny spot just on the corner. But overall, I'd have said it wasn't bad. And I think it's going to be okay for me. Rightio, this rear guard. Now, the rear guard just is what it is for me. I'm not prepared to drop $400 or $500 into a new one. I'm well deep enough on this bike as it is. So the guard is the guard. And, you know, some of the purists would say, well, it's an original guard. It had a lot of pit marks on it from rust. And I have filled and filled and filled until I really don't want to see filler anymore. Some of you might be thinking, well, what's taken so long? Why has this been weeks? Well, I've been caught before with filler and with primer that I haven't let it go off enough and haven't let it go off for long enough, and then I've ended up with what we always called crow's feet under the paint, that the paint cracks. Which is actually the filler cracking, because the filler or the putty, because you haven't left it go off for long enough. Or that was my interpretation of it. It's not the top coat cracking, it's the paint on the bottom cracking. You end up with this crow's feety pattern in it, which is, you know, just bad after you've spent a long time. So I have taken to only painting on better days, not wet days, not necessarily on humid days when there's moisture in the air, and certainly not on really cold days. Or if I do, I paint inside, well, in the shed. And I know that's bad for me, and I know that I shouldn't. So that's what's taken so long. I've been waiting between coats to at least 24 to 48 hours, shoot on 3 coats of primer putty and then let it go off for a couple of days. Then come back and sand it, look for spots, fill it, wait 24 hours, then go again. I was watching a YouTuber recently that was shooting their video in real time and managed to put on this heavy coat of bog and sand it off inside 30 minutes. Now, yeah, that's okay, cool. That's probably really good, but I don't know. I've been caught before. So I try and avoid it. That's what it's all about. KCB Wax and Grease Remover. I don't know, just a brand. They're all brothers from another mother to me. But it does make a difference. I didn't always use it, and I had some failures, you know, some paint jobs that didn't come out super good that I was disappointed with. So I started using this stuff, and I'll wipe it here first, getting the sanding residue and most of the greasy hand marks off. And then when I've hung it up, I will give it a wipe again to get those last finger marks off. It's hard to say whether this is good enough or not. Black paint will tell me. Let me get some white to hang this up. Bit dark in the shed or out in the garage, but I've got them hung up. I'm going to just got a clean cloth, more wax and grease, and I'm just going to give these a wipe off. I'm not using a mountain of the wax and grease remover. I'm trying to keep my hands off the top surface in particular, because that's the one that gets seen. And I'm not overly concerned about a spot or a mark inside at the bottom. Going to do the other one, and then we're going to paint. Have a look at the size of the can, will you? Now it must be, I don't know, 16 inches high, 450 mil high. It's 680 gram can of turbo, 4 times faster. Why? I bought a decent brand. You could buy gloss enamel paint for $6 a can. This cost me 40. I'm hoping this works, so wish me luck. I won't bore you with multiple coats. It needs 24 hours to dry. You apply 2 or 3 light coats a few minutes apart. And that's what I'm going to do. Not going to bore you. Oh. They're right. That is a turbo can. Oh my gosh. That comes out so fast. That's ridiculous. Good Lord. That's actually a bad can to paint with. Fortunately, I did the insides of the guards first. I probably should have sprayed on a wall or a piece of cardboard. because I've got a couple of runs on the inside. It comes out so fast that anything like a normal spray pattern will leave a run. Yeah, it's ridiculously high pressured, or pressured and volume. It's the volume it spits out, and you know, you can see why you need the 680 grams, or nearly double a normal can, because it's coming out so fast. I don't think this will be a success because I can see marks down the edges of the guards, and you haven't got time to go over it in a smooth, even pattern. I don't think I'll do the insides of the guards again. I'll just carefully try and do the outsides. You need to be a long way away. There's a lot of wastage. This rear guard actually, so much paint, inside the narrow piece that it dripped onto the floor. There's 8 or 10 drips on the floor, and I was moving quickly, I thought. So I won't buy the turbo spray system again. It's about, I don't know, 90 seconds later, and the painting is, the second coat's done. So I concentrated on the bits where I could see thin parts, see through the paint, shooting really quickly the edges, both sides, and from underneath, because that's the bits I always miss. Then I came down on the guard, moving very quickly. Now the second coat appears to have adhered better to the first coat. So there's no runs on the top. I have a tiny piece of garbage caught in the paint somewhere on either this one or that one. Well, there's only two. I'm going to wait about 5 minutes, I think it says, and give it a third coat. Coat number 3. Now, the tiny bit of garbage is right there. That's the rear guard where it goes through the frame, and I'm not going to touch it. I've learnt the hard way. I never touch crap in the paint until it's dry, because you make a massive mess. I'll let you watch how quick this needs to be. Bad. That last little bit was the cut-off ends of the guards. They're always dreadful. Now there's so much paint coming out in such a wide arc that the floor of my shed has gone sticky. Wasteful can, because it's nearly empty. Wasteful. I hope I haven't got a sag just there. Okay, it's over. Not a pleasant experience. Can is just about empty, so it used the whole can. I'd have much preferred to buy 2 $20 cans than one $40 can. I'm guessing 25% of this is on the floor. I've never really sprayed where I've ended up with so much overspray. So much of it coming out. Perhaps the can is not designed for what I'm doing. Certainly it says for larger projects, but they don't sell it small, and they don't sell it with a non-turbo nozzle. It's okay. It actually looks all right. I'm not unhappy with it. Grab you off the tripod, we'll have a walk around, have a look, then come back in a couple of days. Well, there you go. I don't know whether you can see me in the reflection or not, but she's pretty glossy. Gone on okay. This is the rear guard, and you know, I don't know, doesn't look too bad, I suppose. You can hear my shoes sticking to the floor and you can actually see the black paint on the floor. Front guard, a bit darker down this end, harder to see. Perhaps a bit of orange peel in it, but nice and glossy. Don't think you'll see much here. It looks all right. So it's an overcast day here, but it is warm. It's over 20 degrees, and I'm hoping that in the fresh air and in the warmer conditions, this will dry nice and slowly. Not too slow and not too quick. It's not a hot day, but it is warmer. Looks good. I've been messing around. Didn't have the camera on. Things haven't gone well. Tried to slide the guard in without taking the pack rack off. And the paint's just, I'm going to say it's green. And so I've got a scuff mark on the top of the guard. I mean, on the top, right where you would see it. And it's really frustrating me. I think I'm going to continue to bolt it together and hope that polishes out. It's a scuff, and I'll bring it in and show you the scuff mark, but I'm not happy. Should have waited. I've got a tiny scuff mark down here too. I probably should have waited, but I didn't. Okay, here we go. That's just a thumbprint there. Not a thumbprint, it's just a greasy mark. But here's the mark. Now, you know, there's my hand. I've got big hands. It's 6 inches long. Starts there, runs there, tiny bit here, and a tiny scuff in the right light there. Not happy, silly move on my behalf. Should have taken the pack rack off, should have been more careful, shouldn't have tried to slide it in, but I did. I'm going to continue bolting this up. Other than that, the guard looks great, and I'm going to leave the front guard another day. Damage is already done to this. Worst comes to worst, I'll take the guard off, give it a slight scuff, and repaint it. All right, rear guard's all done up, and it looks good. I really would like a picnic basket for it. So, you know, here's what it is. I need to find 3 dome nuts, and I need to paint the spring. But other than that, I think it looks really good. Considering what I started with, that's a triumph. But it does have the scuff marks. I think if I leave the paint a week, they will come out with some scratch X. Let's have a look. Rightio, starting down the bottom. Got that bracket done up and there's a dome nut on it, and there's a little bit of dust there, and I think is that dust, or might have taken a little bit of the powder off down there. In here, the bracketry's really good, and the dome nuts, and the bracket fits really well. Inside, it's an unpainted saddle clamp. Don't know why I didn't paint it, but anyway. And the strap that runs up the middle of the guard. That strap goes through up here to that powder-coated saddle that's sitting on there. There's a bit of dust on it. There's the scuff mark. It is a scuff rather than a scratch. Don't know what'll happen. There is the rest of the scuff. Angry. And there's the 3 bolts that need the dome nuts, and you know, they look pretty good. Let me step around there. Pretty happy with that. Think that'll be good. Everything's not quite lined up. Really need the wheel and the tyre to go in to look at that more thoroughly. Think I'll pop the rear wheel in to save it kicking around the floor, and then I think I'll wait another day and do the front wheel. Well, that actually looks pretty good. Even with the scuff mark, I could probably live with it. I ain't repainting that again. I'm pretty happy with that. If you haven't been following along, go back to the first video and see what I bought, and maybe you'll appreciate why I'm a little bit pleased with what I got. Let's have a look. And, you know, besides the tyre, the wheel's done. The brakes are good. The spacers are good. The brake rod's good. It does need to tighten up down here. The clamps are good. The paint's as good as I'm ever going to be able to do. Again, I'm not a painter. Overall, I think it looks pretty good. Let's move on. Let's have a go at the front guard. New day, new morning, back at the bike. Earlier in the morning today, because it's going to be really warm outside in the early to mid 30s. So I want to get onto this early. The bike's looking good. Mate, happy. Scuffs, yeah, I'm over it. It'll be fine. It'll either get repainted or it'll buff out one way or the other. In the photo that I put on Facebook, because you can follow me on Facebook if you want, it looks worse than it is. I don't know. Maybe it'll polish out. General consensus from friends is, nah, you're going to have to repaint that. We'll wait and see. Front guard today, try to be more careful. But these things happen. And as I always say, this is the real world. This is how it works. It ain't perfect, and I'm certainly a long way from it. Going to get on and do the front guard. Rear guard looks good. Everything's bolted up. The finish is good enough. Maybe it's factory quality. Hard to tell. The guard, for how bad it was, looks super. Let's have a look at this front guard. Right, I'm not sure whether you can tell, but I've got the front of the bike turned so it will come completely off the lift. Got it supported. Now I've got to get the plate in. And then you've got to get the whole lot to thread over that. Just occurred to me, when I was disassembling this, I put all the parts I was using into a tub. That one is the one that was made with the new guard, and I'm hoping it was the old one that fitted really well, or fitted better. Bear with me a minute and we'll see. No, I've got it around the wrong way. The bracket can go one of two ways, and of course, you know, when you're putting it in, you put it in the wrong way. There we go. No, not a scratch. Greasy, sticky mark. Right. That actually takes a bit of effort to get that done up, and it's a pain in the butt. I can see why they stopped doing that. And yes, I'm paranoid about that spot in the guard, but it is a spot, not a scratch. The front guard looks super, really happy with it. And, you know, the roll marks have come out and everything looks pretty good. Here's the front stand, whatever you call it. Not really sure, but I think technically it's a front stand. I don't know how they use them, but let's see if we can get that to go back on too. Now, some of these threads on these forks are flogged out, and so that's why I think the guy has put a nut on the back of all of these. Some of them hold, and some of them don't. And you know, after 97 years or something, I don't suppose I particularly blame them. Let's get this loosely done up. And let me find the bolts that hold the back into place. All right, found some bolts, not hard. Now, they've actually got a drop out on these. On the stand part itself, has got a drop out so that you can drop the stand down. Now, I have no intention of using a front stand, so I'm going to put a larger flat washer over it and a spring washer and a dome nut and tighten those up there. Rightio, I got the front stays off the bike and I'm just going to pop them back on because that's where they belong. They're not hard to get on. Now, there's the front stay going in. They just slide up inside the guard and they've got a nut to hold the bottom, a nut that goes underneath and a nut that goes over the top. They do need nickel plated and I will do it in due course. I don't know when I'm going to the nickel platers. When I can cope with the money. Now, that little bolt does not want to fit anymore. And if I'm completely honest, it didn't want to fit in the other side either. Not sure why. I'll try one of the other ones that came with the bike. That one will fit better. Again, one of the issues with picking up someone else's project is that you can actually have parts that are custom made to fit in a particular place, a particular way. How do I know this? Because I've done it. Now this will fit when I get it in the right way. Right, there we go. Now it fits. Don't know what all that fuss was about. So you can end up with bolts, nuts, things that only fit in one place, or when everything fits correctly, it fits really right. And this is made to compensate for the fact that some of the threads are stripped out, and he didn't weld the forks up or do anything like that. He just got nuts for the back. And I'm probably a supporter of that. I think that was a really practical solution to the predicament. Be a blow if I tipped the bike off the stand now, wouldn't it? That looks pretty good. I'm going to put the nut back on the top of that stay by feel. Actually doesn't want to go on. but I'm feeling uncomfortable. So I'm going to move this back around. Just locating the lugs on the backs of the nuts on the front wheel. Front wheel's always really frustrating to get in. I think it's because, you know, it's one of those parts that I just described. It's made by me to fit, and when it fits really well, and when it doesn't fit, it's just frustrating. But tightened up, safe and sound. Bike looks better than okay, to be honest. Front guard, it needs adjusted to be level with the nuts on the bottoms of the front stays, and that's easy to do. So it looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. It's painted okay. I've filled and sanded. Is the paint perfect? No. A little bit of orange peel perhaps in places. I'm going to let it all settle down. I've managed to get this one on without scuffing it or scratching it, so I'm really pleased about that. Rear guard looks good. I'm happy with it. I'm not happy that I scuffed it, but I can live with it. The rear guard actually looks better than it should. It was in really, really, really poor condition. It's bolted up well. You know I love a dome nut. They look slick. The stand clip looks good. I need to paint the spring and the little nut that holds it on. The pack rack looks good. You know I'm not super keen on them, but in this case I think it looks great. Really, really happy with it. There you have it. That's Flat Tank Journey for another week. That's been the culmination of 3 weeks, I'm going to say, of sanding and priming and waiting and trying to be patient. I don't want the paint to fail, and so extraordinary patience is required. And I'm not a super patient person at times. I want to get to this stage really quickly, and that's how I have scuffs and things that don't go well. But this is the real world. I'm telling you how it is. I'm showing you what happens to just a guy in his shed trying his best to do his best work. Am I perfect at it? Hell no. Do I have a lot of fun? Yeah, pretty much. Some days, like yesterday, I get disappointed and I get down on myself. But, you know, don't worry about it. It's all good. You get up the next day and you have another go. Bike looks great. It's super. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you like the way the Wedge Tank looks. If you do, let me know. Think about sending me a comment. Hit the like button. Most of all, if you can, hit the subscribe button. Cheers. Have a good one.